What's going on, my fellow apes? Just here giving you guys an update, some motivation going into the week. Look, I got my rocket blasting off here. We're ready to have a big week. We're ready to have some fun. I wanted to give you guys some motivation, some things that I was looking at that got me kind of pumped for the week, and I think it'll get you pumped as well. 51% to go as we rejoice at the report that Melvin Capital rang up 49% loss in the first quarter, and we know we're the biggest reason and contributor to that, guys. We are doing our jobs. And this is not the end of it either. If you go ahead and look at this other article here, they say that more funds are highly likely and could come out of nowhere for more margin calls, okay? About to get liquidation, and they think it's highly likely that we're going to have another situation like that. He said in the interview, situations in which major loss is triggered by Archegos, hit banks like Credit Suisse and Nomura tend to continue to cascade until the market corrects and flushes the risk out of the system. And we know we are not close to that, not till our big baby squeezes, okay? We are looking good, guys, and we have these guys on their knees and they're begging. We're not going to give it to them, are we? Moving forward, I'm going to show you guys a few things more that has got me pumped. Look at this, the utilization, 95%, okay? That's up 10% from last week, okay? And what does utilization mean? What does it mean in relation to, AMC, okay? Utilization shows the amount of lendable shares, okay, that are currently lent out, okay? And when this is 100, okay, there's no more for these hedge funds to borrow, which means no more shorting. The last time we were at 100% is when our, first squeeze started that got cut short by the shenanigans from our, Robin Hoods of the world. Unfortunate, but it happened, but that's all right. It's going to make this one a lot bigger. Moving on, check this out, guys. Ihor, I hope I didn't butcher his name. I probably did. Sorry for that. But he is one of the partners at S3 Partners, and what they do is basically take a bunch of data points and determine, the squeezability, the short information, etc. on the stock. And here are, some, and this is scored out of a range of 1 to 10 of, potential short squeezes. And here is our champion at a higher squeeze score than GME, right? We're sitting at a 5.25 out of 10. And to me, what this list indicates is that the probability, of a short squeeze happening on these stocks is likely, right? So it's good news. I mean, this is when we're seeing things like this, and we're seeing things like hedge funds getting liquidated and margin called, and we're seeing them kind of get shit on, for lack of a better word. These are all things that are going in our favor. So I can't help but not let that get me excited, right? Melvin Capital, look at their website. These poor guys, 49% losses. They might, couldn't pay their hosting bill for the month or something. They had to fire the web designer because their website is a shell of what it was. Look at it. I mean, simple HTML page here. It looks like they are trying to just kind of fly under the radar. They took the more minimalistic approach, as we would say, right? This is just another indicator that these guys are struggling, right? Why are you pulling your website down? Why are you pulling all the information? This is very, there's just not much here. And I just, again, feel like this is an indicator that these guys are hurting, and we're just kind of seeing, examples of that in multiple different ways. Moving on. Now, this is important, okay? I'd like to thank Carlos Trades for for giving us this screenshot. But go ahead and take a look at this, right? Here is the buy and sell volume on AMC, okay, and GME. We're talking specifically about AMC. But look, the buy volume is 4 times as much as the selling volume, right? Yet the price dumped. Why is that? Well, we all know why. It's manipulation, right? And the reason why this screenshot is important, and why I think, without getting into too much of the technicals behind it, it just is showing you the sentiment hasn't changed, right? We are still buying. We're having diamond hands. We're buying and holding. We're not going to stop buying and holding. And I just think this is important for you guys to see that the proof is in the pudding. Okay, we're not selling. All right, we are buying. We're buying this up, and we will continue to buy it up. And I think that's one thing that these hedge funds have really underestimated about us, is that we're a bunch of smooth-brained apes, and it doesn't matter how low you drive the price, because all we see are buying opportunities. Okay, we will hold this till we die or they die. It does not matter. And so for me, it's just more encouraging. I mean, it's not like I need any more encouragement. My head's already on the moon when it comes to AMC, but it definitely helps when information like that is coming out to get the guys that are a little bit kind of just riding the edge, pull them in. So I'm happy about this, and you guys should be too. Moving on, you guys know there's a proxy vote. It's coming May 3rd. You guys need to understand that it's important and why it's important, right? There's this big talk about this 500 million share dilution. And, you know, to be honest with you, I haven't fully committed to my point. I have voted no at this point in the vote, but you can change it. It's not set in stone. I may change that pending on some information, which we're about to go over next. But why I think this is important, why you understand that you need to be prepared to make this vote. If you look at this screenshot here from our boys at AMC, they're basically saying that if you leave the vote blank or you don't, you know, act on your right to vote, that the board is going to basically recommend your position for you. What that means is they're going to vote for you, right? And they're going to vote whatever, you know, whatever seems most suitable for them. So if it's not in line with what you're looking for, then it's kind of a wasted vote, right? It's important to understand that we, as the apes that we are, we own 90%, you know, of the shares. So ultimately, the decision for this, it's in our hands. Like, the outcome is, you know, we really control this. And so it's important to not forget that, and make sure that you set up some things in your calendar. Again, March 3rd is the end of the vote. Try and get yours in by, you know, it's not March 3rd, May 3rd. Make sure you get your vote in maybe potentially May 2nd. So you know that you're go ahead and locked in, and you can get all the information that is new that might help, you know, you form your decision leading up to that, because there's going to be a lot of stuff coming out this week. For example, and I don't want to get too much into this because Trey's kind of asked not to, you know, give all the information out. But according to his Discord, what I can say, and one thing that he has said publicly, is that next week, for sure, there is going to be an interview with the CEO of AMC, Adam Aron, okay? And that is huge news. And they have went ahead and said the majority of the conversation is going to be tailored towards, obviously, this vote. And what does this 500 million share vote mean for us, and how that could, you know, affect your decision moving forward, and how you're going to place your vote. So I just think that regardless of whatever information is said there, I just think it's important for you guys as investors to understand that, you know, you should gather as much information as you can before you go ahead and put your decision, because we don't know, right? Nobody knows. Maybe Adam says something that, you know, totally rocks our socks off and, you know, changes your position on it. So it's important to understand that. Now, moving forward, look, we have some really important rules, and I mean, these rules are being filed all over the place. I mean, we're talking from the OCC to the DTCC to the NTSCC, a lot of different rules. What has passed, okay, or what we know that has been approved with no objections, all right, is this OCC 801 rule, okay? This is the skin in the game rule. It basically is making sure that collectively all the hedge funds have skin in the game, as well as the options clearing corporation. They're basically going to be putting their money into the pool as well. But basically what this rule says, that if shit gets too out of hand with more than, you know, 3 or 4 hedge funds, the OCC has basically the power to basically take all of the hedge funds, you know, deposit requirements, collateral, etc., and pull them in to protect themselves. So they're going to be there as insurance, maybe if 1 or 2 hedge funds default, but the second that it starts acting like dominoes, they're going to just collectively pull in all of that to protect themselves. That basically the hedge funds will have, you know, their how do I say, all their leverage, etc., that they're at least playing in the options game. So that's a big thing that's important too for people to understand. The OCC directly impacts the option game, okay? And basically the clearing corporation, the OCC, will have the option to pull in these hedge funds and liquidate their positions, pull in their collateral as they see fit. If all these guys start, you know, basically the shit starts hitting the fan for all of these hedge funds at one collective time. So this is really important for us. And people really, you know, there was a lot of glory that this got passed, but I think it's important for people to understand this 801, although it did get approved with no objections, there's a contingency on it that this is not active until the OCC 003 is approved, okay? Which was supposed to get approved last week. Unfortunately, the OCC said they needed more, or the SEC said they needed more information, and they extended this approval period another 45 days. So that puts us into sometime in May. I don't know the exact date for this to get approved. So this 801 does not go into effect until this 003 goes into effect, which is extended another 45 days out. So that kind of sucks, but I still am confident that the fact that all these rules are being basically forced and pushed and like springing up out of nowhere is basically like an insurance policy for all these different administrations and regulatory companies, because they know shit's gonna hit the fan. So this is basically ensuring that they don't get left with all this collateral damage. So this is super promising that all these rules are kind of getting out and getting passed, right? Moving on, another way, this is something, now these rules haven't passed, but moving past the OCC rules, we're looking at the actual DTCC rules here. And you could see there's well, all of these are important, specifically the 003, the 801, and the 005. All of these have not passed, and you'll know when they pass because you will get an SEC approval notice right here, just like how these ones have, right? I'll go ahead and link this DTCC in the comment section below this URL. I refresh this at least once a day. Reason being is that once these are approved, we'll know because there'll be a notice here. So this is something you can come and check on and kind of get, you know, updates on where we're looking for, on how we're looking for some of these, you know, rulings and filings. Moving on. Now, this is more of a little bit of a speculation play, but I don't know. This could or not be something that's affecting us, right? Jane Norberg, who is the chief of the SEC's whistleblower program, left the agency. She's been there since 2012, guys. Okay. Now, I don't know if this is some of the reasons for us seeing, you know, some of these SEC closed door meetings that got pushed back. Is it because of this? Is there turmoil going on between these guys because they're saying, man, there is a lot of shit that we need to be looking at right now that we're not. And I'm just wondering if there's fighting, you know, amongst themselves, right? Now, this is all speculation, and I don't know if it has any effect on AMC, but it's still just important to see, you know, there is some high level shit going on here. Moving on, guys, let's take a look here. All right, guys, so I had to pull up a screenshot here. And we're looking at some of the call open interest, the call and put open interest moving forward for the week of the 16th. Okay. Now, this is really important. We are looking very bullish. Okay. There's 308,000 call contracts compared to 114,000 puts. And apes have bought huge calls ranging from all the way from $10 all the way to 21. Okay. Take a look at this. We can look at the strike price here. It's going to be here in the yellow on the far left. And here are the actual calls. Look at the $10 calls. There are 48,000. Oh, no, I'm sorry, 46,000. I'm blind. 46,000 calls. Okay. All the way down. Look at 35,000 calls at 15, 21,000 calls at 20, 16,000 calls at 21. This is millions and millions of dollars. Okay. And if you come over here and look at the puts, it looks like the hedge funds have really blown the majority of their ammo between $5, okay, all the way down to, let's say, 11. I mean, look at, they have 20,000 here at 11. All their ammo is here. If you look down, there's not much here, right? It gets lower and lower as you go past $11. So it looks like we're pretty much smooth selling past 11. All the ammo is loaded up here in 5 to 11. We get past, you know, if we get to 11.5, I mean, it's over. I mean, these hedgies are hurting, and that's what I'm hoping for. That's what I'm hoping we end. I mean, if we really get crazy, we get to 15.5, I mean, it's going to be fucking pandemonium. All right. It's great stuff. And we are looking in position to do it. Right. Especially with Aaron coming on. If that works out, turns out to be a catalyst for us, it could be, who knows? You know, I'm not trying to speculate too much here, but and on the implications of that, but I am certainly hopeful, right? Now, there's one thing I wanted to show you guys, okay? There's moving forward to this video here. This is important. I watched this video about 10 minutes before I started live streaming, and I want to play this for you guys. I'm going to pause the music. It's important. I'm going to go ahead and listen to this video because it's really important. All right, I'm going to go ahead and play it here now.
Not, but I know some fellow apes that indeed are smarter than all of these clowns, and they have provided extensive proof that indicates that hedge funds are so deep in this that they cannot even cover, because if they did, it would cost more than they are actually worth. Let's examine. We covered short interests. Now we will talk at length about failure to deliver. Failure to deliver is when one party, in this case the hedge funds, cannot deliver back on what they owe. We know that hedge funds borrowed a ton of shares, and by a ton I believe it to be over 100% of the float, which means more than what was available. This is where the naked shorting part we covered falls into.
Important stuff.
On April 2nd, 2021, the most important post came out. A Reddit user that goes by the name of DEJF2 uncovered a huge piece of evidence that suggests that the way hedge funds managed to appear that they returned the borrowed share and covered their positions was through options. Ladies and gentlemen, if I want you to take anything away from this video is this, so please pay attention, because the following information about to be given will explain exactly how they managed to not only hide their position to avoid paying up and activating the squeeze, but also manage to secure and confirm that the squeeze will happen. The Reddit user uncovered that on March 31st, there were $52.94 million that were spent on ITM calls, or in the money calls.
It's a lot of
He goes on to elaborate and disclose that there have been a lot of people taking screenshots and noticing that all the way back to February, hedge funds have been spending millions of dollars on in the money calls.
Back to February.
This gives rise to the idea that they are using a two-step process. The first one is through what is called a synthetic long, where a hedge fund is trying to hide the fact that they are net short, which is that they are shorting the stock. They cannot allow themselves to keep showing up they are shorting GME, so they implement a system where they buy at the money calls and then sell them when they reach a certain price. They do this so much to the point where they average a net even position and no longer appear to be shorting the stock. Now, the problem is that on the books it appears they still owe that original amount of shares. These synthetic shorts are only temporary means to appear they aren't shorting, but the books still show that they owe that original amount, so they have to close out on those unless they want to be restricted from being able to keep shorting GME and AMC and every other meme stock. Now, do you remember earlier when we discussed how market makers like Citadel are allowed to create shares, right? This is the part where they come and start making a ton of shares. Then the hedge funds such as Melvin come and buy them right away and right up in the money calls, which are guaranteed to pay. Citadel comes, buys those call options that are in the money from the hedge funds immediately, and exercises, which means that the hedge funds have to return those shares they bought. On the books, it appears that Melvin and other hedge funds bought back shares, essentially cleaning up any debt. The books are unfortunately very easy to manipulate. As such, hedge funds have an easy time delaying permanently through the process I just described in detail the payoff. Now that you more or less understand how they get away with everything, the question is, will they ever cover then? If they can continue doing so, what's it going to take for them to buy back the shares they owe? The problem with using options to hide new shares being created infinitely to keep kicking down the price is that it simply cannot last forever. An entity like a hedge fund consuming more than the world's limited supply of GME based on never-ending borrowing is unsustainable. There is a point where they cannot longer keep paying to delay the process because they don't have enough money. I know it sounds funny to say a hedge fund doesn't have money. They operate in trillions of dollars every year. But the problem with GME and other meme stocks is that the risk exposure they took when shorting is so catastrophically overextended that it's actually greater than the value of their company itself. Like I said, if they were to pay back everything they owed, the amount would be so high they wouldn't have funds to pay it all. They would definitely default on the payment because they simply don't have that kind of cash. They would need a bailout. A question I see being asked a lot is how deep are hedge funds in borrowed shares? How many shares do they need to cover? Remember guys, it's not only meme stocks they shorted. We talked about ETFs and how they are attacking the ones that follow GME and other meme stocks in order to indirectly lower the price further. In fact, hedge funds actually attacked major indexes. They shorted every Russell 2000 security to break GME. You know how they say that a cornered animal is 10 times more aggressive. Hedge funds is the prime example of that. The magnitude of this is beyond the scope of anyone outside of the hedge funds itself. As such, we can only estimate based in the present data that is actually available to us. Keep in mind that the data we are about to talk about only includes a small portion, so the real number is expected to be much higher than what we are about to discuss. Right now, it is impossible to tell the accurate number of shares hedge funds need to return. Posts on subreddits have it over 1000%. However, this estimate is heavily outdated and does not account for ETFs. Also keep in mind that if regulation comes into play and short interests align back to where they should be, they will rise from the single digits where they have been, and go over 2000%. This means that the entire model for shorting is going to break immediately, as that kind of level of short fee is literally impossible to maintain, and a gamma squeezes will take place. People estimate the squeeze to be over $1,000, but that to me with the current addition of shares is nowhere near where the stock will go.
All right, leaving that there, okay? I'm going to link this full video too in the description so you guys could read it. So the purpose of that was just to let you guys know how these guys, the game that they're playing right now is a very dangerous one that we stand to gain from, right? We stand to gain a lot from this game that they're playing, and I think that we will. But it's just, I'm showing you guys this to understand that that's why when I showed you guys a screenshot earlier, that the buying is still so high, yet the price is still going down. These guys are going to pull every trick in the book. And right now, when you go and read articles, if you guys have read articles that are FUD that are saying, hey, like these shorts have already covered, et cetera, that's because the covering, the covered part of that is basically almost like the synthetic long. It's synthetic. It's not real. In the books, it looks real, but they are still expected to pay that short back. So collectively, with all this information, guys, and there's tons more, but you know, it's Sunday. I want to go out and enjoy my day. I hope this gets you guys motivated and, you know, encouraged to, number one, make sure you guys get your vote in. Number two, make sure you guys are buying and holding. And number three, make sure you're trying to talk to one of your friends or family members and letting them know, hey, here's all the information. Here's what I've done on this. You know, put $100 in it. You know, let's increase the volume on this and let's really see where we can take it. With that being said, I hope that you guys drop a like, follow, subscribe, all that good shit. You guys know that I will keep coming back with information as I get it. I appreciate you guys, and enjoy your Sunday.